to DBSync's Partner Series, where we share the invaluable insight our partners bring when successfully implementing products and services for their clients. So far this year in our segment, we've been discussing the trends or the sort of the latest and greatest our partners are focusing on and the benefits of partnering together to meet these demands, as we certainly know we're in very kind of uncertain and quickly changing times. So we'd like to highlight what our partners are doing, get a little bit more of a bird's eye view into the work that they're focused on, see what trends they think are worth following, and hopefully confirm the benefits of partnership in being prepared to meet all those challenges. So let's not linger, let's dig right in. I'd like to welcome Randy Jasinski, who is the president of 5P Consulting. 5P Consulting has been in the DBSync family, at least according to my notes, for over a couple of years now, Randy. So you can correct me on that.
For sure.
Yeah, great. So we'd like to know a little bit about you, what you guys do, and what you think either you're most famous for or you'd like to be remembered for that you think sort of sets you apart from the rest.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Adrian. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and talk about that. So 5P, we're a digital transformation organization, and we work with a lot of different businesses. And we have three main pillars that we really look at, that we focus. The first is on digital commerce. Mm-hmm. And that really falls in line with anything within that area, including things like sales, operations, customer service, marketing, and into finance. Mm-hmm. And then associating the development and delivery of that. So we're a Salesforce partner, and a lot of our work is in that space for supporting our clients in that. The second area that we support is in information management. And so in information management, what we do there is broadly, we work with organizations on architecture and the different systems that they have, pulling those together and giving them streamlined processes of making sure that they can access the data across those systems. And then the final pillar that we have is IT management. And within that, really, we're talking about project management, program management, all the way up into an area where we support virtual CIO and virtual CISO for security. So we put a wrapper around all that, and that's the type of stuff that we do day in day with our clients. Most of our clients are typically in some form of transition, and that's what brings them to us, and that's what we work. So it could be anything from like some significant market pivot, a lot of M&A, a lot of times acquisition type work comes our way, where again, you're dealing with multiple systems, you got to consolidate that type of stuff, or just simply the need to be more competitive. A lot is changing. They're seeing their competitors morphing and doing better, and they need to either catch up to that or hopefully leapfrog them and get ahead of it. I'd say, like, as far as like what we're famous for within that, I think it's like really putting that circle around that area that I spoke of, like that digital commerce and everything associated with it, which has really been booming and really taken a lot of our focus over the last couple of years, especially with COVID.
Sure.
So a lot of it is, you have your direct to consumer stuff, and that continues. And then we have a lot of activity around B2B commerce these days, where customers, had a previous model. We can talk a little bit more about that as we get into this, but, shifting, going from a traditional B2B model into how do we engage directly, business direct to consumer type of models. And then there's just a lot of variation and mixes within that.
One-stop shop
for certain things.
Yeah, you've definitely got, expansive. So I know, certainly you've got to have a process then when it comes to trying to figure out kind of what's the next big thing. Because on the one hand, yes, you got to be present and on the daily, but then a lot of times, of course, you got to be prepared. As we know, tech and certainly digital, anything digital, but digital commerce changing constantly. So, you think you've learned something, and then 2 days later.
Yeah, absolutely. The shift is amazing. I love it.
It's rapid. So with that in mind, then tell us a little bit more about then how you kind of look to that process of kind of determining what you need to spend time on, what you need to prepare for, and then maybe follow up with what that determines, what that looks like in 2022, what you've been working on, And how's it going? In other words, are you ready for those challenges, or are you finding there's some things that you really hadn't thought about that are proving to, take a little bit of extra time?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think so. On the one hand, the really good news for somebody like, myself and 5P is, we're working with multiple clients all the time, right? So we have multiple engagements where we're, working with clients, and we get to see what their challenges are and where they're succeeding and where they're going. So by working across those different organizations, we get to see what works and apply that back to other clients, and help them get ahead of the curve for the next component. So I mean, I feel like there's that's been a really key component for us. I would say that a lot of times we start with customers, with clients, on an initial assessment. It could be, sometimes clients have a plan in place, and it comes down to execution. But a lot of times they don't, or we try to get them to take that step back and say, let's look at things holistically. What do you have going on across the organization? What's your footprint of technology? And as you know, a lot of companies, they have vast array of technologies available to them. And then once we have that footprint and we start to understand what they're strategically trying to do, that's where that knowledge of all those other things that we've done over the years comes into play. And we can start to make recommendations and suggestions. You can consolidate certain footprints. You can start to get into that integrated approach, and bringing that to the table. It really, that's where we see things going. And then in addition to that, a lot of it is just making sure that, the 5P team as a whole stays ahead of the curve in terms of what's coming. Like I said, we're a Salesforce partner. And, in that ecosystem, that's just never ending. I mean, the innovation's endless. As an example, we're doing a lot of work around loyalty and reward management. We have multiple clients doing that. And although on the simple level, you think of that, I mean, right? It's like, you go to Starbucks, you buy a coffee, get your points. Yeah, I got my free coffee. You're happy, right? But it's so that what organizations that are ahead of the curve are doing in that space is so innovative, and it's just so fascinating to watch. So as working with these clients, I get to see that. Now, am I prepared for it? We're learning too. I mean, everybody's, it morphs and it changes. So, it's a challenge, but I love it.
Yeah, well, so it sounds like a lot of, not surprisingly, a lot of your trends come from your customers, both what they need, and then sort of you probably looking around and going, oh, wait a minute, now we're seeing a lot of this that should make us maybe think about it in this way. But you did also mention that you got to keep your team tight. Are you doing like particular research or looking at, following certain things, or is it just kind of, if you just stay in, read, and, every day stay kind of abreast, that really is the trick?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's a little of everything. It's just, getting out into the market, whether it's specific technical things like in Salesforce, and they're always bombarding us with, learn this, learn that, right? It never ends. But in addition, I mean, what's going on in the, market, like what's the trends that are supporting for customer service, what's happening within that space, what's succeeding, and what are some of the, best in class companies doing, following that, keeping an eye on it, and then having that knowledge base to bring it back to other clients.
Yeah, because I imagine like I said, your what you do is fairly expansive. So I imagine can be a daunting task, but I guess that just means you got to stay on it, right?
You do. And then, within our team, people start getting more and more specific and specific elements of it. I tend to cross a lot of it at a, portfolio level, but there's individuals who, like in that loyalty example, it's like they know loyalty, they've deployed it many times. So they're the ones I would pull in and say, we've got somebody who might be interested in talking about this specific thing. I can certainly talk to it. But they're the ones who've been, really in the trenches.
They're the experts, so to speak. Fantastic. Okay, well, that has to feel comforting, like we said, with things constantly moving and changing, knowing that got your folks prepared, both at the macro and micro level is pretty encouraging.
Yeah.
So kind of on that note, then while it does sound like you can do just about everything, we do know that there's been some times when maybe you needed to do some integration or something for your client. So you might have come our way. So we certainly have found for all of our partners, clearly a benefit of partnership, not just in helping folks get the products and services they need, but also just in the working relationship, kind of knowing what others do, having someone to reach out to if we get something from another client. We're like, hey, we know somebody that does that. So we like to try and obviously foster that approach, and we like to try and stay ahead of things too. Like, for instance, data management. We know that wave has been growing, and I don't know if it'll ever crest, but it just keeps growing.
Yeah.
So our products and services tend to focus around that. And we hope that our partnership in many ways, if the better we are at keeping our support tight, keeping our products nimble, and kind of plug and play, makes for a great partnership. But I'm curious to hear from you. What does a great partnership mean to you? What experiences have you had with us that you think maybe have hopefully embodied that, and maybe where are some areas where you think we could do maybe a little bit more in our outreach with our partners?
Yeah, definitely. So I think, just as a general statement, like I feel that partnership is mission critical to the success for an organization like us. You can be great at certain things, and then you can be good at certain things, and you need to partner with organizations that can, augment that and help that. So when you look at, the partnership with 5P and DBSync, and if you go back to kind of some of the stuff I was talking about, where one of the things that we tend to do is take that step back with the client and we start doing our architecture. Most of the time, almost every time, integration, for example, is going to become a key element to that. And so that's where, having worked with DBSync, having been successful with engagements with DBSync, when it comes to the table again, and we're like, okay, we're doing these things, this is going to make sense for us to use DBSync and leverage that partnership. That's where we can be confident that we're going to be successful and repeatable and make that happen. And having the right people that we work with within, a partnership and an organization that we can pick up the phone and reach out to and know we can get that and make that successful. So yeah, that's been key. And I recommend that with, DBSync, as well as just, I think strategically having those types of partnerships really matter.
Yeah, you're right. Specifically, like you said, for you would literally have to almost know how to do everything at an expert level if you didn't have some partnerships in some of those key areas.
You got to focus. And, like even in like CRM, I think if you were to Google CRM, how many CRM vendors there are, you're going to literally get thousands, right? So we don't focus on thousands. We focus on Salesforce. We have some other tools we certainly use, and I recommend in certain cases, but that's kind of our focus. Same thing with, like an integration technology. There's a lot, but you gotta pick your partnerships, pick the tools that work well for you and your partnership, and focus on those and make that successful.
Good. Well, I'm glad that we've had a hand in doing so thus far. And like I said, you keep us on, honest when there's some areas where we can, reach out, do a little bit more. You certainly need to let us know, because we're in the market for that. We've really been enjoying working more closely with our partners these last few years, and trying to make sure we've always had partners, we've always loved them, but just trying to do a little bit more outreach and connection. I think it's important, like we said, because things are changing so fast. Even though things are seeming to go more back to a hybrid model, but certainly for a while there it was, a lot of at home. So that required quite a bit of, coordination and like the types of integrations and things that we do, as well as I know the setups and things that you had to do for your folks during those times.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can't believe it. It's gone so fast, as it always does. But I want to thank you, Randy, so much for sharing all this insight. It was nice to get a sense of all the work that you do and kind of how you go about your processes, and how you find partnerships beneficial, certainly in the work that you do. So it's always great to hear, kindred spirits from that perspective. But before we go, I wanted to just say, do you have any last pearls of wisdom? It could be about, it doesn't have to be about partnership. It could be about anything you think, but any little kernel you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah, I think like you mentioned a lot about the change that's going on. And I mean, I think technology has always been changing, but I really feel like it's just been spiraling more and more since COVID. And I think organizations out there, nobody can know it all. I mean, especially on an internal organization. If you've been working in an organization, you're successful with your solutions and technology, perhaps. But I think it's like, being able to take that step back, being able to work with individuals and organizations that have been there and done that, and maybe have a broader view and have seen things and can offer you insight strategically as well as tactically on how you can use your current technology, how you can integrate it better so that you have better visibility across is really, really important. And I would recommend any company that's out there to, keep companies like DBSync and 5P in their mind. We're here to help.
Yeah, it's the name of the game, no question.
Right. Yeah.
Well, on that note, then, for those folks that are going to be reaching out to you, where can they find you? You can either give us your website or any other places that might be of interest to us to see all the great work that you continue to do.
Sure. Yeah, we have our website is www.5p, like the number 5p consulting.biz. And I can be found at LinkedIn. You can just look me up, Randy Jasinski, and you'll find me pretty quickly. There's not too many Jasinskis out there, so you'll find me. And I'm at 5P Consulting. I can be reached at RJASINSKI at 5pconsulting.biz as well.
Perfect. Well, we look forward to that. I'm sure many will be reaching out, probably ourselves included. We're even connected, but you know how it is. I'm like, wait a minute,
Absolutely.
Randy, I've got a question. So for those looking out for a little bit more information about DBSync, certainly you know where to find us at our website, www.mydbsync.com. Also, as Randy mentioned, we too are through LinkedIn, and also might find us at Twitter or on our YouTube channel. Please keep an eye out for our continuing series and subsequent partner videos like this, so we certainly get a better sense of what our partners are focusing on, and that helps us get a sense of what we need to be paying attention to as well. So until we see you again, we'll continue to keep your apps talking. Thanks again.
Bye. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Randy.